Hey, Fun. Hey, I said, hey, everybody. I said, hey, Fun, because I have so look forward to the conversation I'm about to have with Christie Smythe. Christie, how you doing? Welcome.
Thanks, Zennie. It's great to be here. Great to be talking with you. We've chatted online before, but never over a video. So cool.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you who may not know the story, Christie was reported with Bloomberg covering white collar crime and was assigned to the case that involved Martin Shkreli and the allegations that he committed fraud in jacking up prices for a certain type of drug 5,000%, if memory serves, I think.
Okay, little bit complicated, but so
Sure.
he jacked up the. So Martin's like a busy bee. He does a lot of stuff in a short period of time. He jacked up the price of the drug, got infamous, and then 4 months later got arrested for securities fraud.
Ah,
Different, unrelated thing. And actually, the reason why I wound up covering him was because I broke the story of his arrest.
right, right. Thank you. And funny thing, he says actually regarding that, he says he's the first person to ever have been accused of fraud who actually made money for his investors.
I don't know. I don't know if that's true, but that is actually. I'm laughing because fraud's not funny, but it is actually true that every single person who was defrauded ended up with more money than he, supposedly defrauded them out of, with like one or two exceptions that were kind of funky because like in one case the government took away the money, but in most cases the government let them keep the money. So it's weird to talk about fraud when in the context of people actually ending up profiting from the fraud, which is what happened in his case.
But I also want to mention that you are now editor in chief of the Business of Business, which is a fantastic publication that I really enjoy reading, and it's a lot of fun. It's irreverent. It's really quirky, and it's
Yeah, that's the
just
whole
really
idea.
cool. She's also the publisher of this neat Substack and Smirk, which I've been. This is a folks. This is a water splash. Well, not even a splash. More, how about a tidal wave of information regarding her relationship with Martin and all of the other interrelated storylines around it. And I highly recommend that you subscribe to it. It is a treat. It is also, it's not quite, as we used to say in TechCrunch parlance, the ultimate time waster, but it's getting there. So, so I quite like it a lot.
I'm glad you enjoy it.
Yeah. I'm curious, how did you become involved in writing? Did you realize you were writing tech all the time, or had you done other things that were tech before this?
Not really. I had, I've always been like, dabbled in interest in tech. I get along pretty well with people in the tech industry. My family's kind of techie, so it's kind of, I'm not, but it kind of, transfers. Uh, but yeah, I used to cover legal stuff mostly, really, really dense, complicated commercial litigation and white collar crime. And I started covering tech more really at the Business of Business, and I really had fun doing it.
Now, regarding Martin and the story, a lot of people by now know the basic story, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start from an entirely other perspective. Um, Martin has been on, as we discussed before we started, he's online now. He's on Livestream. He did a Livestream show. He was with the Bro Boys, whatever they call themselves, on this.
Right.
It's just a dizzying array of appearances. But he doesn't mention you, and I'm looking for it. Is he trying to?
Occasionally, I hear about it once in a while, but I'm fine with. I let him do his thing. He's disappeared into the internet now that he's out. He's got to figure out a way to rebuild, and that's not easy when the whole government has been trying to tear you down. So I give him his space. He's got to do what he's got to do. He's got a brand he wants to build, and I don't think he wants me messing with it. So, that's fine.
And now he has a crypto company he just announced 4 hours ago.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'd heard about that.
Yeah, I just happened to see it and trying to make sure I was, up to date as to what was going on with him and with yourself. Which, by the way, where are you now are you completely over him and on to someone else and something else? I know you're running the company, you're editor-in-chief. That's a fantastic position. And again, it's a great publication, but where are you? Are you happy?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Much, much happier than I used to be before this whole odyssey. I mean, you know, Martin and I aren't together anymore. We're friends. We probably will always be friends in some capacity. The experience that I went on, and the reason why I wrote the book from like why I fell in love with Martin Shkreli from that vantage point is because, you know, it's interesting, right? Like it's a way in that's, you know, kind of, it's got an interesting slant to it, a different point of view, and one that not anybody else can really talk about publicly. But you know, that was a period of time, and he's, you know, doing his thing now. I have a guy, I guess I can call him a boyfriend. We've been seeing each other for a while. Yeah, and I'm pretty.
Wait. If you have to guess, I'm telling you, nail. What is it with these dudes that don't nail anything down? Okay, nail them down. You have to nail them down, dump them.
No, we're having a good time. I'm very happy with with what yeah, I mean, I love freedom and independence, and you know, I was kind of living a different life before where I didn't really have as much of those things. So I've become more happy and satisfied. I mean, I've been able to explore my writing so much more since kind of going on this journey, and like you said, becoming a tech, like getting into tech. Like I couldn't do that at Bloomberg. Like everything was very siloed. I couldn't just like jump and cover tech. Like no one was going to let me do that. So like to be able to experiment, I had to break free.
Blogging is better. Be a blogger. You're a great blogger already. That's hard. Hey, I'm curious. You started out this in a direction that I didn't expect. You started talking about your marriage to Devin.
Yeah.
In a way that, and I can't, this is just me, I wanted to cry for him and you.
It was sad.
And because it seems like, I mean, it seems like you were ready for kids, even though maybe you weren't, and he didn't want them. And it seemed like at that point, things began to break. Is that fair?
It was part of the equation. You know, when we got married, we were both like, oh, we don't want kids. You know, that was kind of the standpoint, the operating assumption. And I could start to think that maybe I did, although I'm still kind of like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And it was the idea of kind of, you know, making the sort of trek into inertia, you know, heading back out to the suburbs, having kids, because that was just the thing that everybody, all of his friends were doing. I could just see the future, and it just seems so bleak. And, you know, kids are great, you know, like that gives your life meaning and purpose, and who doesn't love, you know, love your children, obviously. But I could see that, like, I want to choose my life purposefully. I don't want it to just happen to me. And I felt like the way things were going, it was just happening to me.
It seemed like, was he respectful of you? Was there any abuse or verbal or anything going on?
You know, it was a difficult relationship at times. We clashed a lot over a lot of stuff. It started out fun. It started out, you know, like we were both, you know, we bicker, but it was cute. And then it just got to be like a toxic edge to it. You know, I have an anxiety disorder, and it started to like really make things like my anxiety was like up a lot. And I noticed it when I left, like when I was out of the house, and the anxiety went down. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe how much I've been on edge, you know, waiting for the next fight. And, you know, so I really, you know, encourage anyone who's in a situation like that to just do what you need to do for yourself, because it's not good to put up with that.
Yeah, I'm sorry you went through that. It's painful to read and to hear. And then there's a certain twang in your voice that comes out when you talk about it. So I'm sorry that happened.
Okay. You know, I wish it could have been different, but that's just how it ended up.
And then Martin literally, in a sense, appeared from your perspective. But when you look back on it, what was it that really sucked you in?
The thing that kept going back to was the fact that he actually came from nothing. And the thing that like was kind of the heart of it around all the noise, all the internet yelling and screaming and, you know, Pharma Bro this and morally bankrupt sociopath and whatever. I was like, this is a guy who grew up in an immigrant community. His parents are Albanian immigrants. They came to America. And he grew up in not a nice neighborhood in Brooklyn. I mean, it's a family neighborhood. It's like a Eastern European immigrant heavy type of place. You know, he's sleeping in a 2-bedroom apartment with his brother and his sister on the floor. Like, this is an upbringing that is not what people were assuming about him, like assuming that he was this, like, the Pharma Bro, you know, this rich frat boy or whatever. He clearly was not. And I happen to, you know, I when you meet people, and I'm sure you have in your life, who are, or maybe you are like this, who have come from circumstances where, you know, they're pushing themselves out of a situation that may have been more like modest circumstances and pushing themselves into higher reaches of society. It kind of does something to you. It has, you know, you kind of don't fit anywhere. And I kind of knew that was like at the core of him from the very beginning. And that was context that I think a lot of people missed.
Would your husband, would he come from a wealthy background by contrast, or?
No, he's also pretty. I mean, his parents were also kind of middle class.
So your ex-husband. I'm sorry about that. So
yeah, and he's yeah, but he was proud of also paying for a lot of stuff himself. He got a job at a very well-paying asset management job. He was also pushing himself and trying to, like, you know, that was one of the reasons why we got together in the first place. But I think for him, it was, you know, he got the great job and it kind of stopped there, right? He didn't really have anything else he really wanted to do after that, and was kind of unhappy with himself because he didn't have anything else he wanted. And then you know, anyway, it's just all a lot of unnecessary strife over that stuff happened.
Yeah, slipping in there that happy wife, happy life thing, and you said he got his job, but apparently you didn't mention you, right? And that's jarring. It's like he had almost forgotten that he was married or something. I'm not, you know, I don't mind. It's unfair to him, of course, but you know, there's a reason why these things happen beyond Martin.
Well, I think I talked about it a bit in the book in Smirk, but and also in a guest column I wrote for the New York Post. But one of the things that turned me on to Martin and kind of became like an escape for me was that he, for better, you know, Martin has many flaws, but he respected my intelligence right away. Yeah. And when I was with him and talking to him, I knew he was listening to me. And I knew that, like, we were having a real conversation about serious stuff. And my ex-husband, you know, unfortunately, sometimes he would kind of minimize what I was doing, you know, or like tell me, you know, if I was like, so I covered legal cases for a long time. I'm not a lawyer, but like I wormed my way into a Columbia law class, and I did fine during fellowship. And, you know, I've said
by chance, torts?
What?
Torts by chance?
No, it was
my favorite. It's like, yeah.
No, it was Paul Schechtman's criminal adjudication class. So it's criminal trial law. I got a B+. Not bad. Yeah. But, like, you know, I would talk about stuff, like, be a, you know, armchair legal analyst, like you do when you're sitting on your couch. Stupid stuff. But, like, you know, and my ex would just be like, you don't know what you're talking about.
And so Martin, by chance, Martin to me reminds me of every person that I met in tech in the Bay Area in some kind of way. And it didn't matter if it was like, well, no joke, this was 1994. I'm going to Cafe Strada in Berkeley. It's a coffee house. I went to get my master's in city planning, and there's a guy over here looked just like Steve Jobs. So me being me, you know, I say the first thing out of my mouth. I said, "Hey, aren't you Steve Jobs?" And he said, "That's what they tell me." And I said, "Hey, I'm really behind you on Next." He says, "Thanks a lot, man." And he was talking to some blonde woman who has some significance. I got to research that back because it keeps bugging me to this day. But those are the folks that I met. Or if it didn't matter if it was him, or I would say Michael Arrington, TechCrunch, or I go to August Capital parties because I started my own, sports business simulations and all that. And my point is that, particularly people from Eastern Europe, tech, they're like that. Yeah. That's that I don't know if you experienced that much before, but that's what I'm saying. Martin is a lot like that. Have you figured out that maybe that's a style now that
I do think there's, from what I do know about tech, there's kind of a outside, like, even though tech, they're not outsiders anymore. They still feel like outsiders. Right. They still conduct themselves like outsiders. And I think that is a thing. And yes, I do think that immigrants especially feel this drive to succeed and to push themselves and sometimes in unhealthy ways. I think he fits that mold.
Yeah, you mentioned Elon Musk. You're comparing him to Elon.
Yeah, well, I think they both have similar attitudes on social media and get themselves into trouble in similar ways.
Yeah, and all these guys are like that. There were these guys at the same party I mentioned off camera, so to speak, Jen Allen, who had started art.com and then fell in love with Michael Arrington.
Yeah.
Right, and with the place that I met her at was TechCrunch. It was the first TechCrunch to Scrupt in 2010. And I was late getting over there because I was talking to Marissa Mayer, the president of Yahoo, right? Yeah. Well, then she wasn't. She was a Google engineer and was feeding me a bunch of crap about some algorithms, but I don't want to get into that. Anyway, these three Lithuanian dudes literally grabbed me and says, brother, we're going to a party right now. And they had their own tech company, and they were very much brash. They were masters of the universe. That's how they came up with 3 seconds, okay? These guys suck you in. I'm thinking about Sergey Brin. There's a type there that Martin felt that I think Martin is that captured you at the right time, right?
Yeah. I see it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Is that a good way to be? Because they have a lot of power now in America, as I think about it.
I think that there are aspects that are good and aspects that are not good. Certainly when you have too much of something, it can be bad. And if one group of people who's demographically the same becomes too consolidated, has too much power, you need to break that up. you need something to there needs to be counterpoints. And that's hopefully what the market economy should be doing. That if it's supposed to function correctly, there should be something that rises up and challenges that.
Like a countervailing power, to use a Galbraithian term. I'm a big fan of John Kenneth Galbraith. So something like that, like you're saying, there should be a countervailing power.
Yeah, there needs to be a counterbalance. I don't think when you have too many of the same, when it's groupthink, it's not healthy. And things you start to have things like the sort of toxic workplace when people there's too many people who all work the same way and drive themselves the same way. It's not a good thing. You need diversity. You need a lot of different views.
Now, do you think Martin is, how do I say this? The Martin that I've listened to is not how he's captured. He strikes me not as the person that the media paid him. He's not like Gordon Gekko.
No.
He's more like
the tech guys in Silicon Valley. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
but he said something to me. I'm just going to unleash. Okay, not, and that's a bad term, but I thought, okay, this guy's a racist. He doesn't like black folks, yada yada. And I'm listening to him. I'm realizing within a few seconds, no, that's wrong. Most of the people that he was talking with in prison were black.
Yeah,
he talked about that. He talked about certain behaviors from other people that were racist. And I just sort of sat and I thought, okay, I got him all wrong. So was that because prison changed him, or was he like that before prison? Like this okay guy that was just sort of misunderstood by the media? Because you seem like you have, well, no, excuse me, not seem like you do. You got a handle on him.
Thank you. Maybe. I don't think he's ever been racist. He's always been, he has kind of a somewhat traditional libertarian standpoint when it comes to, people like being accepting of everyone, I think prison made him more aware of the social and economic injustices. So I think that maybe, I don't think racism has ever, like, he's never been racist as far as I know. But he has become more aware of the problems in this country that have to do with race.
Do you think that it's one thing to be aware of that, but then, it's like my mother, I was telling her, she says, remind me again of who you're interviewing. And I told her, she says, why would she date a guy that want to hurt people? This is my mother.
That's okay. The thing. That's the biggest misconception. He did not want to hurt people. If he did want to hurt people, I would not have wanted to date him.
Say that one more time so my mom can hear it from a distance. I mean,
if he wanted to hurt people, if that was his actual intention and goal, I would not have wanted to date him.
Given that, should his actions be more charitable? In other words, shouldn't be trying to make amends with society for just, he seems like he's concerned about, and he said it. He said in his live stream today, people say that I'm this tech bro, but I'm really this boring guy and I don't do much. My point is, he's really concerned about how people see him.
He's really, yes, but he's sort of yes and no. I think he would ideally not care. I think he cares more than he lets on. And he's also just, he has many talents, but public communication and perception are not one of them. He has huge blind spots when it comes to how he comes across. And instead of addressing that, he just goes, I don't care. And then it comes and bites him in the butt.
But when
that's what happened to him over and over again. But yeah, I know, just to your point, I think he very much wants to contribute. And I think he's tried to make efforts, and he wants to do it in his own way. He doesn't want to let the social justice warriors or whatever tell him what to do. He wants to find his own way to make amends and do something that he feels has impact. But it's very hard. He's trying, but it is very hard because every time he tries, someone will yell and say, look at Martin Shkreli, look at what he's trying to do, and make fun of him. And this has happened before. I mean, on national television, it's really, really hard when people shut the door in your face and say, no, it's not worth it for you to try.
Why not help him? I mean, you're the perfect conduit, I think.
Aren't I? I would absolutely try to help him in any way I can. And I do. I try to encourage him. I'm here when he needs my help for anything. He's a dude. He's got pride. So we've had many conversations to this effect. But yes, these are all in the process. These are in the works.
Yeah, because it seems like he says and I see this, it's not that to me, he doesn't care. I think he cares, but he's resigned himself to the idea in his mind that there's nothing he can do about it. Right. And so
I hope not. I mean, I do think he has desires and moments, and he wants to contribute. He definitely, wants to do something. He does not want to hurt people. He wants to leave a positive impact on the world. And hopefully, I mean, he may be struggling with it. Possibly. Maybe you hear that coming across in the live streams, but I hope he lands on he can do it.
Yeah, he made a comment about mRNA, which actually has gotten rid of my arthritic pain. And it struck me that this man should be out there talking more about mRNA, how it works, because a lot of people don't know. And he could, if you could reach out to him and say, hey, you know what? I talked to this idiot who says that you should be talking about, right? I think that'd be an amazing contribution for him. A second act.
Well, that would be definitely worth looking into. Thank you.
Don't you think he needs a second act, though?
Well, he needs to build a life for himself and for what he wants to do. I certainly hope he gets a second act. He's hopefully, I think, had enough mistakes and things gone wrong that he's learned some things and can maybe do it better this time. But it's going to be a huge challenge. He's got he's got a judgment that says he can't do anything in pharma.
Yeah.
For the rest of his life. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
I don't talk much about the monetary amount because, you know, to me, I'm like, well, you jacked up the price of the drug, you know, like people are going to come after you for that, you know, like that's, I can see where that's fair. But the banning someone from the industry for life to me is like, what? That's just meanness.
When you say ban, does that mean that he can't talk about my obsession, which is mRNA?
I don't know if he can. That's actually something I have to look into it. I don't know. He wants to do stuff like that, he has to talk to a lawyer.
Yeah. He mentioned it in passing as being this miracle drug and everything. And my problem right now is I have a Kaiser doctor that's just lied about what I told this person, even when my mother was in the room with me. And I've had that happen twice with 2 doctors. Mm-hmm. So someone's covering something up with this stuff. And I think Martin would be the perfect foil for whatever the pharmaceutical industry apparently is trying to do in not telling people the real truth about this drug. What Martin said in just 7 seconds blew me away.
Wow.
It just blew me the frick away. And, you know, which gets to my next question. There are all these folks out here. There's Elon Musk, there's Martin, there's, name them. They're almost mini corporations that have established their own approaches. Some of them have made them famously rich. A lot of them are libertarian. What does it say about our society's future? And also, what does it say about the idea of white privilege from your perspective?
So we're saying all of the, like Elon Musk and the existence of these sort of billionaires. What does it say about white privilege? Yeah. Well, I mean, white privilege.
Martin fell off too, right?
I mean, white privilege is the chicken that comes before the egg, right? I mean, the reason why there's so many white billionaires is because they have white privilege, because they had doors open to them that other people haven't.
Right.
And so a more interesting question, I think, or a more difficult question, is does that mean we should have more Black billionaires? Does that mean we should have more brown billionaires? Does that mean, like, is that the goal? Should we have more billionaires, or should we have fewer billionaires? And I don't know why.
Okay, I arrogantly believe I know the answer to that question.
What do you think?
We need to have more Black folks who think positively about what they are able to do. Because when I was growing up in Chicago, I was in the Star Trek. I was called, and not just Poindexter, it was a certain Poindexter. Okay, that was a pejorative term, and it still continues to this day. Even though we've had people like folks like Barack break through, right? But he broke through because he was the guy in high school that everybody loved, and we had enough people in society who had a guy like that who said he could be president, and it happened. You know?
Yeah. But we saw what happened in society when that happened. When after Barack was president, and then we have all this racism.
Yeah.
Bounces, into view, and it's how do we get out of that?
Right. And see, then it activates those of us who feel like the society is not for us, and then they reach back to slavery, and it starts to now we have a new underclass. I call it an underclass of the cranium that says I can't, and we have Martin entering into this picture. Who here's another way he can help society, help break through that, or anybody else. But the way you get a desirable class of Black billionaires, note I said desirable, okay, is for the confidence to be desired. Because what's going on, I see this I'll just say it, NFL owners meetings. There are some people who are so used to Black athletes, the only kind of Black person they know. And so a guy who like me, who thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, even when I'm dumb, is antithetical to them. And it's antithetical to a lot of people, including people who are Black. Getting over that. I don't think white privilege is a bad thing at all. I never have, because most of my friends were like that. Because most folks who my friends who were black were always shunning me because I said you're white, and I would say, I just call me Mr. White. I don't care. You know what I mean? It's a nasty thing out there. It really is.
It's because you had ambition and you wanted to do stuff, and yeah.
I
wish that didn't have a color.
Right. But I'm not saying I don't see color. I do, because
sure, everything is.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm getting at. It's not. I think that there's my answer to your question. I think that better world is on the horizon, but to get from here to there takes a lot of effort, and it takes the involvement of folks like Martin, yourself. We're talking about it, and you're, allowing me to give you this angle and everything. And I think that's the key, because right now it seems like we have a section of billionaires that are behaving in a way that's undesirable.
Yeah.
And
it's too much of the same echo chamber.
Yeah, absolutely. And so much gets me my next question. Who's the next Martin? I don't mean that you're going to fall in love with him. But
you mean like Trouble? Like,
yeah.
I have my doubts about Ryan Breslow.
Tell the word who Ryan is, by the way.
The founder of Bolt.
Yes.
The rapid one-click checkout star. He's got this like big chip on his shoulder and has been like tweeting these crazy things, or he was talking about the mob bosses of Silicon Valley. And I'm sure there's some there's some truth to it. We know there are privileged groups in Silicon Valley who probably pull the strings. But the kind of like, like, do you really want to go down that route? You've seen this movie.
How did he emerge? Because I have to admit, he hasn't been on my radar screen. This is the first I'm hearing about him.
Ryan Breslow?
Yeah.
Well, people knew who he was because Bolt was very successful, and it was at one point worth billions of dollars. It may have fallen somewhat. And then I think a lot of people got to know who he was because of the tweeting, because of him, lashing out at Y Combinator and Stripe.
Wait a minute, he did what?
He was
a friend of mine.
He was lashing out at Y Combinator, basically saying that they were rigging Hacker News in the favor of their favored entrepreneurs. And he didn't get into Y Combinator, so he had, but just the loudness of his personality and this like sense of like, oh, I've been so maligned. I'm like, you're worth billions of dollars. Just kind of let that sit for a second.
So maybe if I attack this guy and get Ron to finally invest in one of my companies?
I don't know. Maybe you could try. Right.
Where is it that you think Martin's going to be 5 years from now?
Jesus. I really, really hope that he is going to be in charge of a functioning company that is growing and has cleared up some of his legal drama that's still going on and is doing some of the good things he's been talking about doing, giving more money to charity or, whatever it is that he wants to be able to be involved in. That's what I hope he's doing. And I hope, he continues to carry the humility that he's gotten from this experience forward in his life.
Are you going to, what do you want? Do you want to get married again? Do you want to be on that track again? Or are you?
I don't know. I have this thing.
If Martin turned around and said, hey, I want to take you on, I want to make amends, would you jump for him and dump the guy you're with?
No. The guy I'm with is actually lovely. And
congratulations.
Is very, very sweet. No, I wouldn't do that to him Also, there's so many things that would have to come before that would even come into the picture. And whatever. I think Martin and I make very good friends, and that is fine. But would I want to get married again? I don't know. I'm Right. So I live in Harlem. I am living kind of the like, I don't know if I want to call it like the Sex and the City life, but like, I'm this, in my late 30s and 39.
Excuse me, I have a question. Which
Yeah.
Sex and the City is one of my favorite programs, and Candace Bushnell is my Facebook friend. So I have a question.
Really? That's awesome. I love the original book. The book is actually one of my favorites. And when I started Smirk, it was a little bit of one of my inspirations.
She's a nutty genius.
Yeah.
My question is, which one of the Sex and the City are you, Sam? Are you?
I'm probably mostly a mix of Carrie and Miranda.
Yeah.
There's Sam's too much, and then I'm not Charlotte. Not at all Charlotte.
I can see that. That's so you're out of Brooklyn, you hate Park Slope. I mean, I haven't been back.
I love Park Slope, but I mean, it was great when I first moved to New York. It's just a very charming neighborhood, right? It's charming, it's safe. It's, if you come from the Midwest like I did, you moved to New York City, it's like, oh, this looks great. It's very white. It is very certain kind of white. And after a while, it starts to grate on you. Like,
what kind of white is it? Because if I'm not mistaken, Brooklyn had one of the largest Black Lives Matter demonstrations. They're all white. And I was showing Mom, I said, Mom, look at this. This is how America's changed.
They're probably all from Park Slope.
Yeah, it's
great. It's great.
Well, were you in that march then, or were you?
No, I was in marches in Harlem. I wasn't in marches in Park Slope.
Yeah.
There's kind of, it's not that they do care, and I get that, but there's this like, you take on like a level of this like intensity where you're like, you don't actually understand this experience. You realize that, right? Like you realize that you're getting so angry on someone's behalf, but you don't understand them in the first place.
Sounds like a Saturday Night Live skip I just saw. I'm pretty sure it is that Saturday Night Live skit I just saw. I think I did that. Wow. So by contrast, how do you like Harlem, and what's your favorite restaurant in Harlem?
Oh man, I love Harlem. And my favorite restaurant in Harlem is, this is tough because there's a lot of really good ones. What is the honey chicken place? There's this honey chicken place that's like really, really good. I'm
getting educated because I've never been to Harlem. One day.
There's amazing restaurants like everywhere.
I have to say, when I first introduced myself to her, I was talking to her I was texting about 21, and she got after me. So
21? Oh yeah. Oh right. Well, this 21 Club is so old New York. I went there once with my ex. It's like you feel like you're walking into an 80s movie. Like it just doesn't feel old.
That's because you are walking into an 80s movie. Okay? That's why.
Yeah. It has a certain vibe.
It still hasn't reopened yet, so there's that out there. So where's your favorite restaurant? Who is the new Christie? Because the old one was married. You were not happy. The new one, what do you like to do? I
write a lot. There's so much writing. I do like lots of stuff with my friends. Like we were at we were exploring Harlem. There was like a bar that like has board games. So we were playing board games at the bar. We go and ramble around the city to like, different sightseeing tours, because there's like a bunch of free stuff that like a lot of people don't even pay attention to up here. Like you can go explore and climb to the top of like this old water tower that's like at 168th Street. Like who would have known? It's really amazing. You get these great views. We go to like street fairs and museums. And like I just try to get out and mingle with people, basically. I'm a huge people watcher. I love just like getting to know new experiences and getting to know people.
And you're editor-in-chief of the Business of Business. And how did you get that job?
I started off as a senior writer, and over a year or so, I just kept doing more stuff. The editor-in-chief left, and eventually I was the editor-in-chief. So
did they hire you because of Martin? Was there a time they mentioned it, or?
Actually, I did. When I read the LinkedIn job post, I was like, this sounds really cool. This job sounds really interesting. Like they wanted people who have like a connection to real life events. I'm like, I'm just going to go ahead, lay it out there, explain who I am and my connection to Martin and this whole crazy story. And they really loved it. And that was actually part of the selling point. And what I really love about the business of business and is that we kind of break some of the traditional journalistic norms purposefully, not like accidentally or like, because what we're doing is we're saying, okay, you can have a connection to the events that you cover as long as you disclose it. We're not saying like, we don't have this like rigid, we have ethics policies where they're based on disclosure, not on keeping yourself hermetically sealed away from all the things around you, because that is not a realistic, that's not realistic. It is something, there's always debate and discussion when you talk about journalists and like what they're allowed to do and not do. And I think the most important thing is don't lie to your readers
Right.
in any sense. When you're writing, it should be true and you should be speaking from an honest perspective. But there's a lot of, when you brought up the question of the TechCrunch guy and the woman he was with, and
Michael Arrington and Jen Allen. Yeah, actually, Vanity Fair too. That's
right.
Yeah.
A big issue that I ran into was, and what was finally so freeing about getting out of Bloomberg was there not being a way to approach this discussion. It's so rigid and so like, oh my God, such a scandal for even to be thinking that. Like, you can't have a sit-down conversation. It would have been a wonderful blessing and would have saved a lot of trouble if there was someone I could have talked to at the news organization, say, hey, I'm feeling like a deep sympathy for this person. I'm concerned I'm concerned about them. What do I do about those feelings? And to give me options like, okay, here's something. Maybe we take you off the legal beat for a little while or something like that. That was not a possibility. It was, oh my God, this is happening. We can't let this happen. And then, it was just too much pressure. I couldn't do it.
Does that reveal, as an outsider to journalism, as a blogger who started Oakland's first blog, I've always felt that, I'll just be honest. I felt that journalism was and is a shield for some people to say, okay, you shouldn't do this, but behind the scenes, they're actually doing it.
What kind of thing that you do mean exactly?
Oh, example. I'll give you a big example. That's a huge issue with me. Hearst Media Services provides reputation management services to clients.
Right.
Of mine, okay? Yet their old website, which they've since changed, in part because of my constant badgering about them while they were having other people say, well, how does Zennie make his money? Had at the bottom of it logos from the San Francisco Chronicle, the Houston Chronicle. In other words, they were advertising in your face that they're using their publications for their work in digital media, and particularly in reputation management. So it was two-faced. Or there was David Brooks, who I met at the 2012 Democratic National Convention, who went off on his little side trip, doing this work, but didn't disclose it. I can go on and on and on. And my point is,
everybody makes exceptions for themselves, but doesn't accept it for anyone else, right?
Yeah. And for me, as an outsider who's been fortunate enough to be, part of the NFL press since 2005 and everything else, and because how I got into that, because the NFL treated me like, because not the NFL, but the city of Oakland treated me like crap in the face. The NFL was trying to bring the Super Bowl to Oakland. And so he just opened the door for me. And I said, how am I going to, I'm not a journalist. So I thought I'd just take a tech angle. My point is, because of that, I've seen a lot of behavior that has really soured me to anybody that holds up a journalist's shield and says, I'm a journalist, and they just pound you in the face with it. Okay, that's how it feels, right? And I'm saying, by all of this, by what you experienced, does what you experience reveal that journalism is broken, needs to be fixed, be more like bloggers' rules of ethics that Jay Rosen posted about 10 years ago, which I thought was brilliant, Jay, even though Jay can be a pill sometimes. And yeah, I said that. But the whole point is, you met Jay?
No, but I'm pretty sure I follow him on Twitter.
Oh, my Lord. I met Jay. Jay is just that. All right. Hi, Jay. Anyway, my point is, Am I wrong about that, based on how you experienced it as a person who was trained as a journalist?
So first of all, you've got the situation where, we've got these rigid rules that are kind of impossible. And then obviously people making exceptions for themselves. Guess who has the most success making exceptions for themselves? The white men. So
touche. Yes. Yes.
And I'm not saying, I mean, I know lots of white men in journalism, and many of them are lovely people, and I have learned a lot from a lot of people, you know, I had mentors and so on. But that is a thing where, like, it's like, oh, well, the white guy gets to break the rules for himself.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when someone else tries to do it, a journalist who happens to be a person of color or a woman, yep, it's like, it's just, you hit a brick, you run into a brick wall, and it's like, oh, nope, not for you.
Yeah, they did that to me at City Brights. John Diaz, you know, I got my friend Richard Liebman, I made him a blog, and John Diaz, who was the editorial page editor, I called him to say, you know, hey, this is great, I love what you're doing, but I need black people. And he goes, you want to do it? And I said, sure. To make a long story short, I'm about to interview Phil Bronstein, who's a great dude, and about the future of journalism. This is on Zennie62 now. You can, you know, look at it. Before the meeting, the interview starts, he says, your name came up in a meeting with a big boss. I had no idea who that was. I'm saying, who's that? He says, Stephen Schwartz. I'm like, okay. And so then he says, we have this big spreadsheet. Your name was at the top. Everybody's like, who's Zennie Abraham? I said, okay. And so he says, do you realize that you've generated more traffic than any other part of this website, including the Daily Dish?
Good for you.
Yeah. So Phil said, he wanted them to hire me as a consultant. So Blake Kirshner, Michelle Slack, who's now with Google, said, we want to know if you've been using illegal code. Now, these are two people who know how to code to save their lives. Okay. I know how to code to save my life.
You know, you would not have gotten that question if you were a white man.
And obvious by the fact that I'm telling you that right now, it still pisses me off. I made a video. Yeah, I made a video saying that I'm going to get them there. I'm going to beat them in Oakland.
Sorry, that's obscene.
Yeah, that's what they were doing, right? And so
that's the first question. The first question that they have, like, and you know, you obviously need to be careful with everyone to some extent, but there is 0% chance that a white man would have gotten asked that.
No, and it just continues. And then they feel like, hey, you know, we want to know how you get paid. And I said, Stephen Tavares did this for the East Bay Express. And I said, yeah, I want an inside terminal solution because they're against coal. And my buddy was developing what they now call a coal terminal. But if you had any sense of history, said, you know, Zennie is an older guy now. I can talk to him about this sort of thing. You'd figure out that it was actually number one on the Port of Oakland's economic development to do this in 86, right, on our seaport line. Mm-hmm. To make a long story short, these bozos say, well, okay, you know, inside terminal solutions, your client said, yeah. And I went after them because you can't pay for media in the normal way. You guys are fooling people with these paywalls, and it just doesn't work. I said, we all please stop fooling each other. I'm sorry, Chris. It's just such a, you know, you hit it right on the head. It's white guys getting away with murder, but it's like, you as a black person can't do that. And I'm saying, heck with you. I'm smarter than you. I can do it. Join me, you know? And I don't know what to do to stop it, except talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I think there needs to be a come to Jesus moment where everyone's like, you know what? These kind of rules and standards are not actually livable. We need to do something about that. Yep. And then stop having special exceptions for certain people.
We should get Martin to do this. Okay? This is going to be Martin. This is going to be Martin's new thing. Okay. I'm serious. If he means what he says about, you know, having black friends in prison and everything and all this stuff, if he believes in female empowerment, does he?
I think so.
Then we just given him his second act.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you heard him talk about Charles, the boxer, and Danny? Oh, you didn't hear? So yeah, actually, this is really cool. I'm sorry, I'm changing the subject a little bit.
Oh, go ahead. This is your thing. Go ahead.
People have asked me, like, a lot of times whether I regret all the stuff I did, and I will give you 2 reasons I do not, and that is Charles Duke Tanner and Daniel Egypt Shakyo. I'm saying that badly. It's Puerto Rican, but anyway, these 2 guys, friends of Martin in prison, both men of color. in prison for decades, thrown in prison for decades for drug crimes, the typical story, just really, but they were like they were both like really motivated, positive people, and still are. And Martin got to know them, and I got to know them, and they both had pretty substantial efforts, like lawyers and community leaders and activists pushing for them. But it wasn't making progress, or it was getting places, but it wasn't doing enough. And I was like, all right, I wrote some stories about them. They were like kind of activist op-ed type pieces talking about them and their issues. And within a year of each of those that I posted about them, things happened and they got out. And it was just to think that maybe I added just a little bit, just like a tiny bit of grease to the wheels, and made it and helped just make it move along a little faster. I couldn't have done that as a reporter at Bloomberg. I couldn't have done that operating under the traditional objectivity mindset. But those two men getting out of prison and feeling like, okay, I had a little bit of a voice in that. If I won a Pulitzer Prize, it would not, like, that's nothing. That's nothing compared to these two men getting their lives back. And how could I possibly regret a path that led me to that?
Yeah.
It led me to like these two, and and now they're out in the world, and like Martin and I are trying to raise money for them to like start businesses, and or they have businesses, but we're trying to help them grow the businesses.
Do you have a GoFundMe, or if you do, just send it?
I do. I actually have I started a nonprofit. It's very small. It's just, and because I don't, I'm still learning what I'm doing, but it has 501(c)(3) approval, 501(c)(3) approval, and a bank account and a Stripe account set up. You can donate to it. It is called, it's a silly reference. It's called monadnockvalleygroup.com. But anyway, the money that,
I was going to write that down and put the URL.
I'll send you the link, but it's so we don't have any paid staff members. This is just, this is whatever we raise is going to go to Duke and to Danny.
Monadnock Valley?
Yes.
Valleygroup.com.
.org.
Oh, Monadnock Valley Group. Wait a minute. I think I found it. Hold on a second. Let me see here. Cool website. If I did, one moment, please. Share. Stop screen. Share screen. Window. That.
Yeah, it's got the colorful, the hands on the top, and.
Is that it?
Yep, that's it.
Yay! I got it.
You can get this going, and I'm right now. Things are going to D-Block and D-Block. We goes by D-Block, Danny and Charles or Duke. But I would like to expand it to more people and be able to provide. Basically, we want to set it up so that they get some grants and some very, very low interest financing, just to say, okay, here's like a loan structure, and to help support growing small businesses.
Huh. Regardless of whether this is really like a venture capital firm.
A little bit, except we're not. It's nonprofit. Like, we're not making money off this.
Right. You're like the original.
Basically, the idea that I had, that where this started, was I was like, everybody who's successful can count on. They had, no matter how hard you work, you have to work hard, but like you probably have some cultural capital behind you. You probably have a rich relative. You probably have somebody who supported you. And, we can hopefully, my goal is that we can make this into that for some people.
Do you realize that Bill Gates came up with this concept something like 20 years ago?
Maybe.
I'm serious.
I'm not saying it's original.
No. I'm not criticizing that. What I'm saying is, I think it's worth reaching out to Bill Gates to get involved in this, because I don't know why it went by the wayside, but it did. And or maybe it just became inculcated. I have to now research what happened to it.
I'm gonna have to look into that too.
It was the same thing. No, that was it.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I think my point is, in my pedantic way, you're on to something. And I really think that's something that needs to be revived.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's kind of, I did the paperwork and got everything set up, but it's like, it's hard to like get things going, right? So yeah, I'd like to.
So you're building the fund.
Yeah, building a fund, kind of, getting the structuring the way that the projects will work. So we know that right now, whatever money we get is going to go to Danny and D Block, but we want to be able to talk through. I'm kind of using like they're good starting points because they can give me a lot of feedback on the process and explain to me like, okay, this is something that'll work. This probably won't work. So I'm kind of using them as a focus group too. Mm-hmm. So that's where we're getting that going.
See, there it is. So I went through all that to make because I knew I was going to misspell it, right?
That's right.
So there we are.
It's it's kind of a dorky reference to something, but I
think this is great. And it was easy to find because I just typed Monadnock Valley.
Yeah, well, it's good SEO because there aren't that many, right? So.
Right, exactly. And it took me right there. Stephen corrected the spelling for me, and so here we are. And now it's just captured for posterity. Hey, Al, how are you doing on time, by the way?
I'm good. I'm good. However you're doing is fine.
I'm awesome. So, with respect to this effort, and then Martin, and what you're doing in writing, have you all talked about, or let me put it this way. Is it fair to say your lives are going like this, even though I keep saying, hey, you can collaborate here and there, but it seems like to me you're diverging. But also there's one part I need to ask you about. And I say, need, because it has to do with Smirk and your latest installation, wherein it was on voice.
Oh.
It was the 26th, I believe.
Oh, the one that I just posted, the notes.
Yeah.
I do some like special extra stuff for subscribers, like some extra notes and stuff.
Yeah, I took it in, but what I took in sounded like, from a perspective, you were really upset about how it sounded like somebody or something, or maybe an amalgam of responses got into you, and you sound a little perturbed about how some people were responding to this publication. Am I wrong?
I can't help it getting to me a little bit. People say a lot of trash about me on the internet. So I'm sorry, I'm not perfect at like that never getting to me.
Who cares what they say about you?
I know, but I should, like at least be able to talk about it.
Yeah. I mean,
like, run my life or anything.
My former boss and just put on my advisory board, Oklamirlo Harris, said, he said, Zennie, the time to worry is when I'm not talking about you.
It's true.
Yeah. I mean, you've got a presence and you've got a place where you can go. But there are all these stories that are coming out of this in directing myself, because there was so much to it. I was playing catch up. That I started from the start and I kind of went back to the back. But of all of these, which part is the most special to you of this story?
Oh, this is a good question. Because they're all like, I put a lot into each of them because, I've done a lot of work already, but then I sit down and I kind of redraft it.
You put your soul into this. It just comes out,
Yeah, really, like it kind of has an organic quality to it. Yeah. But I do really like the one I just posted last week. You should write the book, because I think it really kind of captures how this all came about, and the sort of weird divergent views that I felt like I had to deal with, which was this media idea of Martin, and then what I was seeing in person didn't match up. And I was so interested in trying to somehow bridge that divide or make sense of it. And that it really helps to explain, I think, my state of mind and why I felt so passionate about doing that. I I mean, the introduction was something that kind of just came out of me. It was a little, the introduction is a little bit rage filled, I will admit.
Because I have to pick, I have to tell you, I am in bed and I have this open, I'm listening to it, and I can see my eye in the reflection, and I'm just going, and I'm looking, and as you talk, and my eyes went, what the heck?
Oh no, which part was it?
It was, you were saying, and I'm really, some people, you said some people, and your voice went into that little shriek. And it was just saying, upset.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure which part that was exactly, but yeah, I mean, I noticed people are like, oh, you shouldn't pay attention to the criticism, Christy, but because I'm kind of I am kind of an immersive explorer of these experiences. Like, I like understanding how society works from an economic and social level, and I kind of, I'm kind of exploring that from a first person perspective.
Sorry
about that.
Oh, no worries. It's part of the experience. It's part of the experience is how people react and respond and what prompts that. And I want to understand that. It is hard I think that I'm better than most people at like letting it roll off and bounce off of me. Of course, some of it's going to stick. I'm only human. But I think it's interesting to see the way the shape of the reaction in my opinion is interesting.
And the reason why that little sound that you heard, I made a video. I don't know if I sent this to you sometime or not, but I said that you should write about Anna.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, imagining Anna from a view only you offer. And I come back to that because of our discussion regarding Martin and the connection to Eastern Europe and hers as well.
That's true. Similar kind of, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think is the most similar about the two?
The
geographic thing,
I think the being the outsider trying to somehow find a shortcut into the inside, that's very similar. I mean, they were both also Martin didn't really cost anybody any money at the end of the day, but I mean, they were both, kind of, to say that there was conning going on, it was going on with wealthy people in both cases.
Where is she now? She's out of prison, isn't she?
I think so. I don't really know. I haven't really kept up with her story that much. I know that the Inventing Anna is out there. I know Martin did go to a dinner party with her once.
What?
Yeah, it's actually in the show. I've heard about this. But
that's right. He is. Yeah, he is. I saw that. Right. I forgot that. I don't know why I'm saying what, because I watched it twice.
The way he described it to me is like, oh, she was obsessed with me. Maybe she was. I don't know.
Why do I get the feeling Martin says that about any woman that might talk to him?
I know it's going to be hard to believe, but actually, in a lot of cases, he's accurate. He's got a weird appeal that is very hard to explain, but it's there.
It reminds me of another guy. I can't even think. This guy I haven't seen in years. I used to see him at TechCrunch Disrupt, and his name. See, now I got to go back to my videos and interviews, and as soon as we're done with this, I'm going to blurt it out. I'm like, oh yeah, him. But it's on Netflix, and you said that you sold the movie rights to the story.
There has been a film slowly in development, film or show. I'm not sure what it is going to be exactly, but it's, like Hollywood projects. It's not done until it's done, but it's been cooking for a while. There are people involved with names that you would recognize. I'm not going to say them right now, but it's up to, it's their thing when they want to like unveil it, or if they want to unveil it. But it's a hard thing to do. Like, you have to understand, like, I give them immense credit for even wanting to sign on, because I did it, but if you take on this story, you are going to get hate on Twitter. You are going to get hate on Twitter. You're going to get hate in the media. You're going to get trashed. And You have to have a strong stomach for that. So, you know, whatever care they're taking with approaching this, I understand it.
Well, it's kind of like what Lowball and Lynch. I mean, the law firm. You know, they'll do anything for a buck. I mean, the point is, it's bad. Good press or bad press is press, right? So,
yeah, but it's, you know, nobody likes having to play defense all the time on so many different issues. And as you notice, I mean, you know, I didn't even understand until it was happening how this story suddenly became on people's like racial justice radar, and that took me by surprise. I was like, "What are you talking?" Well, like there's a in the criticism, you know, people will come at me because I'm a white woman, and for no other reason really. And I, on one hand, I totally understand, you know, the anger, but it's also like, the story has no real, other than the fact that I'm a white woman, the story has no nexus with racial.
I hadn't seen that because I'm not one who reads Twitter that much, and of course my main channel was suspended. So I'm, in fact, I still need the contact for those lawyers so I can sue Twitter and, you know, basically no, because you know what, I mean, this is what they did as a momentary aside because I want to wind back to what I'm about to ask you, but here I am, Ivanka Trump was supposed to speak at CES, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of my fans gave me a VIP ticket front row. I'm like, yeah, I think Ivanka's great. I think she'd make a great president. No joke. All right. So here I am. Her dad declares war on Iran. She's going to be there. I'm thinking I'm a target on my back. So I made a video about it. I take mom to shop. I come back. Next thing I know, my account's suspended. Why? They say we had multiple accounts. Well, if I type multiple accounts in Google, do you know what comes up number one? Twitter telling you how to maintain your multiple
accounts. Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah. So I tried everything. I emailed Biz Stone. I emailed the board. I emailed, you know, I thought Biz was my friend. He turned on me. I thought, why are you turning on me, Biz? You know, I mean, no, it was really freaking bizarre. Okay. And it's worth a story because even Kennedy, I forgot he's now off in LA, but he was the global head of content when I met him at CES Las Vegas in 2019. Matadi is his last name, but at any rate, Matadi just went black. He left. He went black, and all this happened right around the time that they had that meeting of Trump with Trump in the Oval Office, they being Jack Dorsey and a number of staff. Now I was at the Twitter launch party. My friend Kathy Brooks has a photograph of me there somewhere. That's how far back I go with Twitter. You know, when Twitter was coming up, another Pounce, not spelled the normal way, in the usual way. Pounce was actually coded by Leah Culver, who is a sex writer, who is a wicked programmer, okay? And she also has a wicked tongue. I met her at we used to have these parties at Moose's in San Francisco, and Owen Thomas, who's now with SF Gate, was editor of Valleywag. And he actually broke the story about my complaints about racism. Thank you to this day, Owen. But my point is that I just got so lost in that I have to come up for air. My point is that race and what you're talking about has changed in a way where there is a certain racism against white people. Okay. That I'm trying to figure out a very simple way to explain it, what I think is a complex situation, but well, it's a different generation of black folks who come up mostly in social media, the negative aspects of what we have to deal with, the transfer, and they're including with video. And then of course, now here we have the crescendo event, George Floyd, right? Okay. So that's the damage that has been done by social media, by there not being a countervailing message that says, if you're confident and we will be confident with you as a black person, you can make it. I think you're coming up now and, you know, working with somebody who in Martin is the white privilege of being confident. And it's not just with males, it's also with women, but in a smaller scale that black folks don't get. Every single day in a common black household, there's talk of racism. There's an example now in social media of somebody doing something heinous to somebody else. It doesn't matter if it's Abigail Apchick, who's mentally ill, going after this Nigerian woman who photographed her, and the police siding with Abigail, taking her in. That was last year. Okay. I mean, I can just ticket these things off like that. All right. That's damaged our society. And it basically what's happened is it's poured on you. And so that's, I think, what you're seeing is the end result of that. Yeah. I don't know what you've gotten, but I would say
that sounds about right.
Don't respond to it. Okay. Is it appropriate for people like me to say what I'm saying? Yeah, it is. It is, because I came from a time where my mom was one of the first black reservation sales agents for United Airlines. When I was a plane at 7 years old in first class, I had a white man talking to me. We were talking about baseball and baseball stadium financing, which I happened to be interested in when I was 7. Okay. But I wanted to leave my high school. We wound up in California, April 8th of 74, because 2 years prior to that, I went to my principal at Avalon Park, and I said, I can't learn here. You had to either fight or play basketball well at Avalon. I did neither well. I was in the Spock, Star Trek, the original series, which I had built my company around to a degree covering Comic-Con, okay, among other things. Point I'm making is that with social media, that difficult rock of lack of confidence that needs to be broken is harder than ever. And anytime there's an expression of tech wealth or tech success, that's what you hear. And that's what's okay. And that's what's happened. So that's why, again, I think Martin and what you all are doing with this organization can make a gigantic impact. Maybe if you had W. Kamau Bell has United Shades, if he had you on and talking about your company in that context, because I just happened to watch your show last night, that kind of outreach, that kind of bridging the gap is what's needed. And I don't say that just because you're here. I'm saying that because you're here. I'm listening to the story, but I'm also realizing once again how large this problem is, and we better get a handle on it, because what I see now are people look like me committing suicide more and more and more at a younger age. And when I was coming up, that was something that Black folks didn't do. Okay. Now it's happening. We have the Harlem, the subway shooter who's Black, who's 55 years old and also shot at Black people. Okay. So it's going the wrong way. And it's going a way that I personally find frightening. I'll just say that publicly. I find it very frightening. So that's what I think you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, if I can do anything, I don't want to be like, oh yeah, I'm this white person, I want to save people. Like, that's stupid. But I want to.
No, it's not saving. Wait. It's not stupid. It's a bold, naked recognition of the fact that you're allowed to be a more confident person, and that there's a certain segment of society that, as you rise, they perceive them falling.
Yeah, which is sad. I want them to rise. You know, I would also like to see more Black billionaires and people who are like, economic power is social power, and it is empowering, you know, to be able to support yourself and support other people, to create jobs. Like, it does so much.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'll just say I want to help too. Any way I can help with my communications apparatus here, I'd love to, because it's something that is threatening to go off the rails in a way that we got to stop. And I think that's a good way to close it, so you can get on the rest of your day.
Heavy stuff, but yeah, important.
I want to have you back too. Leave something for this. Yeah, definitely. Closing thoughts. What's the next step in this publication that I'm going to show again, that I want everybody to buy a subscription to?
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about how this is sort of loosely structured. There is obviously a lot to the story, a lot of elements and parts and themes that I'm exploring. It's all kind of dancing around the actual what it says the focus is, which is how I fell in love with him. And I promise we'll get there. It's going to be kind of my showpiece to this whole thing. I'm just kind of, I'm stringing it out for a bit, but there will be, I'm pouring a lot of effort into that. And I'm hoping that people will find that satisfying.
Well, I got to ask you, because you say how you fell in love, but then you say we never did it, right? Or did you?
All right, I'll tell you the title. The title of the section is called "Falling in Love Over a Contraband Cell Phone."
So you got him a cell phone. You snuck a phone in.
I did nothing. I had nothing to do with any cell phones. No,
okay. Because he actually talked about contraband in this live stream.
I did not. Whatever he got in there, he figured out how to get. I did not have anything to do with it. Okay. Well, no, he stayed for a while at Fort Dix. Is a low security prison in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
It is contraband city. Oh my God, Google and you will find that is a prison where a lot of ex-military work there, I think. And there's a certain amount of, and it's also relatively close to New York City. And there's just the corruption rampant. There's all kinds of stuff coming in that should not be in. There are weapons that come in sometimes, and like dangerous stuff. But like, also, there was actually I googled contraband cell phones in Fort Dix. There was a time they actually did an intensive sweep, and they found, I think it was like 1,200 phones. So,
what?
I'm serious. It's really easy to find, actually. Yeah, it's like something like 1,200 phones, and they're like cockroaches. They just go like as soon as you.
Anyway. Oh, before I release, I got to ask you, because you made a lot of comments about this on Twitter, the prison system.
Absolutely, yeah.
Is it damaging us? And since the prison system happens to have an inordinate number of people who look like me, is it also contributing our damage too?
Yes. Prisons serve no real function in society other than creating a permanent underclass. It's not making us safer. I don't feel safer, because people are in prison. It is making people worse who are in prison. It's making them feel worthless, dehumanized. Of course, they're going to be angry when they come out, because who wouldn't be, based on how, that we treat people. It is a waste of human resource, a waste of so many resources and so much potential. And one of the reasons why I thought about this one particular nonprofit idea was because, they are drilling into people's heads that they're worthless in prison. And I want people to know they're not worthless. And also, like, it just, the waste. You walk into a prison and you can feel how much money is directed to just keeping people down. And it's just wrong.
That makes me mad all over again. My God, something's got to be done.
Yeah.
Of work to do.
Yes.
Stick around in the background, Christy.
All right.
Folks, subscribe. You got it. Folks, I'll be back later tonight to talk more about Howard Terminal in Oakland. Subscribe to Zennie62. Bookmark oaklandnewsnowblog.com, and make sure you please smirkbook.com, right?
Thank you so much.
It's great talking. All your money if you can afford it right now. I'm not rich like Martin. I'm working on it though.
Martin's not rich anymore either. So.
What? Oh, they took all that money from him? Okay, he said he was well off. Oh, he lied.
I mean, he's got resources. I don't know. I don't want to talk about his resources. I don't know what they are exactly, but okay.
To be continued, folks.
Okay.
Hey, stick around in the background. Thanks, everybody. That ends this broadcast.